Hi, I am Chef Kelcy Scolnick. I am a Lowell-based chef and food educator, and I am also the chef and kitchen manager at Right Lock Farm, where I run a really wonderful community kitchen on our nonprofit farm. Right Lock is just this really magical farm. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we're really a community space. We organically farm 2 acres of land. We have 20 acres. We have adult programming, we have youth programming, we have free programs for seniors. We run on volunteers. You can volunteer in the kitchen, in the field, and of course we love donations, whether it's an in-kind donation, monetary donations, all those things kind of help us stay running so that we're open for you guys in the community. So if you guys just want to come to walk around, we're open sun up to sundown every single day of the year. We'd love to have you. And I am so thrilled to be here tonight making one of my all-time favorite foods, handmade pierogies. This is a really special dish for me. Winter is coming, and this is just this perfect comfort food that you can make. It's really good for doing in batches, so you can freeze it ahead of time, and that way when it's January and you're freezing and you're like, what am I gonna eat for dinner? I just want something that makes me feel like it's a hug. Pierogies are your answers. This is my family's recipe. I've been making it since I was probably 2 years old and could hold a rolling pin. I have a photo of me in an apron and a rolling pin at 2 years old with the dough in front of me. And I mean, it was great. This was always my family's thing. My mom, my sisters, and I would clear out the kitchen after Christmas. We would put Disney music on, and all day long we would sing Disney music and make different types of pierogies and freeze them for the year ahead. So I'm thrilled that it's pierogi season, and I'm thrilled to be here with all of you guys to make them. We're not just gonna have pierogies, as much as I would love to eat only that for dinner. We're gonna kind of round out our meal a little bit. So I'm also gonna show you my secret to a perfect crispy skinned chicken thigh. It is foolproof, it is easy, it's done in the oven, and it's great for a crowd. And then we're also gonna make just a really great seasonal salad with some oranges, maple, pepitas, all these yummy flavors that really just kind of scream fall. And I think with that, we could probably go ahead and get going. So we're gonna start with pickled red onions. Essentially what that means is we're gonna create a brine. So our brine is acid, salt, sugar. It's a 1 to 1 to 1. 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 cup of vinegar. You can add other things into it like peppercorns or garlic or a bay leaf to kind of give it some more flavor. But you could also just keep it salt and sugar and the onion, and that's totally delicious too. All right, so this is our brine. It's gonna come up to a boil. Once it's boiling, we're gonna pour it into here with our onion. I'm gonna show you guys how to cut an onion without crying. So onion has 2 parts. You have the root, which goes in the ground, and then the bulb, which comes out, the head, what I call it. So just like the Red Queen, just go off with her head, just like that. And then I'm gonna cut my onion in half, and I left my root ends attached. The reason we cry when we cut an onion is because there are gases in that onion that get released. Those gases make us cry. So think of this root as like a little prison for it, okay? I peel the skin, but I also peel that first layer when I'm doing my onions. That layer of skin is closer to the surface. So that layer of onion has a little bit of a tougher texture. And also sometimes it's annoying just peeling the skin off and it takes forever. So all onions have these lines, and these lines are our guide, right? So I'm gonna start in the middle, I'm gonna go down, and I'm gonna keep about a 1/2 inch of that root connected, right? And then I'm gonna use these lines. The thinner your lines, the thinner my onions. There we go. And then I have all of these nice slices, but it's still connected. This is kind of like a 1/2 of a blooming onion, really, when you think about it. So I'm gonna do that to the rest of our onions. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to chop off my end. And look at that, now we have all these great sliced onions. In the jar they go. You could also use a mandolin for this if you wanted, or you could do like the half circles if you want. All right, so we've got our pot here. And what I'm gonna do is pour it in. I might have overstuffed this, but I think we'll be okay. So we're submerged in our pickling liquid. They're already kind of starting to turn. And then that's it. So these are gonna sit out for about 10, 20 minutes, and then you can eat them. So we're gonna make a maple orange vinaigrette. So to segment an orange, all you do is we're gonna cut off our 2 ends. Then I'm just gonna peel this skin. So what I did is I peeled all the skin, for the most part, off these oranges. There's a little bit here, but I'm not like too worried about that. And then I'm gonna go between the membranes. So there's all these different membranes that you can see, and you're just gonna go knife in one way, Knife in the other way, and out comes a lovely piece of orange. I might switch to my smaller knife. A paring knife can be easier for something like this. And then you get to the end and it's like just this big mess, but I'm gonna squeeze. All right, so we got that, and then we're just gonna segment this other one. I'm gonna take off that membrane, because nobody wants that. It's all bitter. Easy peasy, orange squeezy. Sorry, I couldn't help it. So what we're gonna do is, I've got my blood oranges here. We're gonna zest maybe like 2 of them. So when you're zesting, essentially what we're doing is we're collecting that outer layer of skin. Do you guys see how this is a lot paler here? This is called the pith, and the pith is very bitter, so we don't want the pith. Most flavor in citrus is located in the oil, and the oil is in the skin. So we're getting a lot of that citrus flavor without adding the acidity and the liquid. So we're gonna juice these oranges, and I'm gonna teach you one of my favorite tips. If you cut a shallow X in your citrus, what happens is when you're juicing it, the peel flowers out instead of rolling in. So it's a lot easier to juice and you get more juice. So that is just genius. Love these blood oranges. Just look at how beautiful they are. All these different colors, like it's so gorgeous. And now I'm just gonna pour this in my mason jar. Okay, so we're gonna add some shallots to it. So when I make salad dressing, if there's not shallots in it, odds are I didn't make it. We're gonna do it very similar to how we did the red onions. So I'm just gonna cut off the top, and then we're gonna go just like that again. Peel it. We're gonna. All right, and then, so we've got all of those slices and things like we did previously. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna dice it. So we're gonna turn it the other way, and then just this nice rocking motions. And then we have some nice diced shallots. Easy peasy. Whenever I make dressing, I always put my shallots in with the acid first, because that acid's gonna kind of like temper down on some of that shallot for me. There we go. Okay, and then to this, we are gonna add a little bit of maple syrup. This is some local maple syrup we got at the farm. All right. It was a little bit more than a little, but that's fine. I like a sweet dressing. We're gonna add some apple cider vinegar. We're gonna add salt. We're gonna add pepper. And then we're gonna finish with some olive oil and then shake it up and give it a taste and see how it is. See, so great. You just put it in the jar, call it a day. Mmm, so orangey. It's not overly sweet either. It does need more salt. I'm a salt queen. I love salt. All right, so I'm gonna take these 2 wonderful, beautiful things that are done, and we're gonna put them over here by these pretty pumpkins. So for our salad, it's arugula, and then I cut up some fennel. I'm gonna add some dried cranberries. You could also do like dried cherries if you wanted. And then I've got some feta cheese. We've got these beautiful oranges that I segmented. I just love different colors on food, and pierogies, as delicious as they are, they're a very brown food. Creating space for some color gives your dish a little bit of vibrancy. My other like current obsession, maple pepitas. We sell these at the farm store. I looked for a second bag, but I couldn't find it in my pantry, and I was like, I guess we'll go with one, but I guess one's enough. So then I'm just gonna do I like to do piles of red onions when I plate salads. It just adds this whole other layer to this, you know? There we go. Oh my God. And there's more if you want them. Okay. All right, so then we have this gorgeous salad. I'm not gonna dress it. I'm going to shake the dressing, and we'll put like a little spoon, and you guys can kind of dress the salad. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make some crispy skin chicken thighs. This is really simple, and we're gonna spice it with one of my favorite spice blends. This is called Bear Beret. It's an Ethiopian chili powder. So I'm gonna start with some olive oil. I always put parchment down just to make cleanup a little bit easier. You don't have to. And then I'm just gonna make it look really beautiful with lemon slices, garlic, thyme. You could use other things if you wanted. If you wanted to take oranges, would actually be really delicious. All right, so we've got our lemons, garlic, and then some thyme. So I've got this really beautiful thyme, and I'm just gonna kinda lay these out. So we've got these really beautiful trays, and now it's time to add our chicken. So here's my chicken. you wanna make sure that your chicken is dry. This is really important because we want a crispy skin. We're not searing this. We're literally letting the oven do all the work. You can put about a dozen on a tray, but you wanna make sure they're not crowding each other because that creates steam. So then you're gonna have steam and you're not gonna have like nice roasted chicken. What we're gonna do is we're gonna season this meat. So I've got my salt. We're gonna give it a happy sprinkle. We've got our pepper. And then I'm gonna hit everything with Bear Beret. I'm gonna flip these bad boys. All right, look at how gorgeous that chicken is. So now this chicken is good, it's ready to go. So in about 15 minutes, then it's gonna go in the oven. How easy was that, thinking about having people over and making dinner for them, and how can you do that? And this is 24 pieces of chicken, easy peasy, no problem. So the next thing that we're gonna do to prepare for our pierogies is we're going to make our pierogi filling. So the most amazing thing about pierogies is you could literally put anything inside them. They're essentially a Polish dumpling. Traditional potato and cheese, there's sauerkraut, there's mushroom, all these different things. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a really beautiful fall twist, and we are gonna do a browned butter sage sweet potato pierogi. So this is a sweet potato that I roasted. And to this, we're gonna add a little salt, we're gonna add a little pepper, and then we're gonna add some brown butter with sage. The thing about browning butter is what we're doing is we're essentially cooking out the liquid and like evaporating that liquid, and so we're only left with the butter, and the sugar in that butter is gonna start to caramelize. And that's what the brown is, right? When you're browning your butter, one thing that I always suggest is using a light colored pan. If you have a dark colored pan, you can't actually see the butter browning. And it's already starting to do that. So if you guys look, you can see here, there are these little brown bits that are starting to show up. And that's what we're talking about. You wanna be careful though, because once it browns, it burns very fast. Okay, so we're browned, look at that. So we have this beautiful brown butter here. I've got all these little brown specks, that's how I know, and we're gonna add our sage. There we go. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put it inside my blender. I didn't even bother cutting the sage because it's gonna do that in my blender. I'm gonna let that do the work for me. I'm gonna add my sweet potato in, and then we're gonna blend it up and taste it. And then we get to put that inside of dough and then fry it in butter. Literally, life is good. All right, let's give this a taste. Oh, it's so yummy. I'm gonna give it a tiny little pinch of nutmeg. So we're gonna put our filling inside of a piping bag. This is a really easy way to make sure that we have control over our filling when we're doing it in our pierogies, but if you're making ravioli, things like that, it's the same idea. So what you're gonna do is, you take it and you fold it over, and then you make a little C with your hand. And I call this like a little hand hat, right? So I'm making a little hat for my hand. So we're gonna just put it in. And then, there you go. So now we have our filling. We'll cut the tip and that we would pipe that in. So now it's time for the main attraction. We are going to make, in my not so humble opinion, the best pierogies in the world. So what's great about this dough is a lot of times when you eat pierogies, it's served with sour cream. I've never had pierogies served with sour cream because my family puts sour cream in the dough. So it's really simple, really easy. So in my mixer, I've got my flour and my salt here already ready to go. In my mixer, I'm gonna add an egg, my sour cream, our vegetable oil. We've got a little bit of melted butter. And then I'm just gonna mix these things up. Great, and now I'm gonna add half my dry ingredients. There we go. So the reason that I do it in half batches is because the dough does get like pretty firm, and I wanna make sure that I'm really incorporating and mixing everything up. So I'm gonna do half the flour and then we'll add the rest. So I'm just gonna give my dough a quick little knead. In fact, I might even just do it like that. So I'm just gonna knead it until it comes together. And then it's gotta rest for a few minutes and then we'll roll it out. So if you're making it and you realize like your dough feels a little bit sticky, not a big deal. We're gonna add flour through the rolling process. So when you make pierogies, what you do is we're first gonna make them and then they're gonna get boiled for 3 minutes. After that, you're gonna cook them in butter. Here's the thing though, pierogies take a lot of work sometimes, you know, but you make a lot whenever you do it, so it might be more than you need. So if you're not eating all of the pierogies that day, you're gonna boil them and then that's the point in which you stop. So yesterday, I made these pierogies for us. And what I did is we did the boiling process, I put it on the tray, and then I cooled them and I put them in here with some parchment paper. And this is also how I freeze them. Say that you're making pierogies and you wanna have them for a party or bring them to a potluck or something like that. Cook them the day before and then heat them up the next day. So we've got this gorgeous dough. I've got my flour here. I've got my cup. This is what I'm using to cut my pierogies. So growing up, do you guys remember when McDonald's had those fancy Disney glasses that you could get? Yes. We collected all of them. They were our favorites. And we would use those for making pierogies. Those were our pierogi glasses. So they sat in the china cabinet and they only got used on pierogi day. And we would take them out and we would just make pierogies with them. So I use a cup. You know, the bigger the cup, the bigger the pierogi. You know what I mean? But I think a water glass is a good size. All right. And now we're just gonna roll it out. So I'm gonna add a little bit of flour, my rolling pin, and there we go. So when you're rolling with a rolling pin, you always wanna start in the center and up, center, back. If you start down here and you roll, then you're rolling the whole entire thing. All right, so we're gonna cut our pierogies. So I'm using my cup, and if you notice it's sticky, this cup is slippery, right like that. And we're taking it and I'm just kind of twisting. And then what's important here is making sure that I'm kind of cutting as close together as I can. So I'm gonna roll my dough twice. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna cut all of our pierogies and then we're gonna, from both these batches, and then we're gonna put that dough to the side. It's gonna rest while I make this batch of pierogies, and then we can roll it again, and that'll be our second roll on that. So we've got all of our little cuts here, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill them. All right, so again, this whole idea of the piping bag making our lives 1,000,001 times easier. All right, look at that magic. So now they're all here, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna seal them, okay? So we have my bowl of water and I have my bowl of flour. I use both of these things. So you're just gonna use your finger and you're gonna paint a little half moon, so I'm halfway through, and then I pick it up. This dough is nice and fresh, so I can stretch it. My two ends touch, and then crimp it. And there you go. You got a pierogi. Easy peasy. And I love, okay, like there's like this shape that happens when you do that. It's like this little divot right here. It's actually my favorite part because it just feels right, you know? So I love that. What we're gonna do now is we are gonna boil our pierogies. Okay, so this is the next step in the process. So I've got water here and it's salted water, and salt is flavor. Okay, so we're not gonna overcrowd our pot. We're gonna go, I think that's a good amount. And then whenever I put them in, I always give it a quick stir to make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. And now it's gonna boil for 3 minutes and then it'll come out. You want your pierogies to float, so they're coming up and floating, which tells me they're almost done. All right, there's my 3 minutes. So we're gonna come out, we're gonna drain onto a tray. So I always take them out and put them onto a tray so that they can drain before I continue the cooking process. And they go. Ooh. Are all of those done?
There's a couple left.
I would put them in with them, yeah. These are looking absolutely gorgeous. Friends, I think it is time. And with that, we have made some really delicious seasonally inspired pierogies, a simple yet wonderful sheet pan chicken thighs, and a delicious seasonal salad. So thank you guys for joining me. You can find me at Right Lock Farm in Winchester. We would love to have you there. Bon appetit, everybody. Enjoy.